Of the G20 summit is about to open in Brisbane. This year's gathering coincides with growth in the economies of some members, decline in others. It also comes amid geopolitical tensions among some of the members. As CCTV's Roee Ruttenberg reports, the host, Australia's Prime Minister, is committed to a successful summit.
The so-called G20 members, 19 countries plus the European Union, account for nearly 85% of the world's economic production, which means they can strongly influence global growth and greatly suffer from its absence. The leaders gathered in Brisbane are expected to scale back protectionist measures individually put in place following the 2008 global financial crisis. But the summit's host says the world expects more.
This is our message to the world that governments can deliver, that governments can agree, that the world can be better, that there can be higher jobs, higher growth and more jobs.
Before the summit began, leaders of the so-called BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, met on the sidelines, with the Chinese President Xi Jinping urging his counterparts to speed up the creation of a new Shanghai-based development bank. The group agreed to the bank back in July as an alternative to the Western-dominated global financial system. But the U.S. President Barack Obama insists there is a role for the West to play, particularly an economic one, and not just globally, but also in the Asia-Pacific region. And speaking at a nearby university, Obama promised greater cooperation with Beijing.
The United States welcomes the continuing rise of a China that is peaceful and prosperous and stable and that plays a responsible role in world affairs. It is a remarkable achievement that millions of people have been lifted out of poverty in China because of the extraordinary growth rates that they've experienced. That is a good thing. We should want and welcome that kind of development.
Obama also praised China's new targets for carbon emission reductions, a sentiment echoed by the UN Secretary General.
I'm asking other leaders, particularly emerging economies and major economies, to follow the suit so that we will be able to have a global, meaningful climate change agreement by the end of December next year.
As host, Australia has sought to keep the summit's focus on boosting growth, fireproofing global banking, and closing tax loopholes for giant multinationals. But issues like climate change, which Abbott had sought to avoid, have managed to creep onto the agenda. And at some points, overtake it. But despite divisions and simmering tensions over some geopolitical issues, the leaders have agreed to come together, physically. And that, observers say, is a start. Roee Ruttenberg, CCTV in Brisbane, Australia.